I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus. We will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications.
Man, I don't even know if Mike and I need to talk. Maybe we should just play that on a loop over and over and over again. I could just sit and watch it and just drink it all in. Joining me now, Mike Davis, founder of the Article 3 Project. Mike, it sounds really good. And since Trump's election, they haven't backed off of that. You haven't backed off of that kind of talk. It hasn't been well, I guess never mind, let's get along. It looks to be all gas, no brakes right now on getting these criminals out of our government. Is it?
It seems that way. I am very happy that President Trump is going to fulfill his campaign promise to reform our intel agencies and justice system. They have been politicized and weaponized, going all the way back to Crossfire Hurricane against President Trump, Russian collusion. They've gone after Trump, his top aides, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who they put in prison, his supporters on January 6th, who they politically persecuted, according to the Supreme Court's Fisher decision in June. They went after parents outraged by gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms. They went after pro-life Christians, including putting a pro-life Christian in prison for 75 years for praying at an abortion clinic, while they gave amnesty to Joe Biden, the Biden family, BLM, Antifa, Hamas, abortion industry activists, trans terrorists. We need to fix this.
Mike, how can we fix it? I believe me, I'm well aware of what you and I want done. You know what we would like done. I want government people in handcuffs. I don't say that to throw bombs. If you've committed crimes, especially using your power in government to commit these crimes, you should go away. You should be in prison longer than a pro-lifer who was praying. But setting that aside, I want to do whatever is realistic. What can realistically be done to clean them out? Firings? Are arrests even possible?
Look, I think President Trump needs to appoint a very strong attorney general. He needs to appoint a very strong deputy attorney general, FBI director, White House counsel, DNI. President Trump was a political novice when he ran the first time. He had never run for office. He had never been in office. He has absolutely learned his mistakes from his first term. He's publicly said that. He's not gonna get duped again by Russian collusion and the other nonsense that the deep state threw at him the first time. And I think he's been very clear that in his public statements that he understands we have to fix this. We are going to destroy our country if we have a politicized and weaponized justice system and intel agencies. This has to get fixed, and I'm very pleased that was one of his first public pronouncements as the president-elect.
James made a public statement the other day, and I think maybe I misinterpreted it initially. When I first heard Letitia James, I'll play it in a second. I know you've already seen it, Mike. When I first heard her say this, I took this as being an offensive thing. We're going to resist, or we're going to do this or that. But more than I think about it, and I know about the crimes she's committed, maybe she's talking about playing defense here. Here was Letitia James.
We did not expect this result, but we are prepared to respond to this result. And my office has been preparing for several months because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before, and we used the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again. Because as the Attorney General of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility.
Mike, are we looking at an offensive or defensive statement? Should she be worried?
What New York Attorney General Tish James just said there is absolutely outrageous. She campaigns for attorney general on getting Trump. She politicized and weaponized her office to go after Trump for the non-fraud of Trump paying back sophisticated Wall Street banks in full, on time, as agreed, with interest. She's part of the Democrat lawfare and election interference campaign against President Trump. Look, I'm not going into the Trump administration. I'm going to be continuing to support Trump from the Article 3 project. But I really hope that whoever Trump picks as his attorney general will hold her accountable for what she has done with this politicized and weaponized justice system against her political enemies. This is a conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. It's outrageous, and she needs to back off.
Okay, let's talk about the judges. That is one thing that was lasting and really, really, really good from the first President Trump term. Obviously, you're never going to nail it 100% on SCOTUS, Kavanaugh, but setting that aside, we have a bunch more local judges that Trump will be putting into place. How's this look, Mike? How do you vet these people to make sure you don't get some dirty snakes in there?
Look, President Trump's biggest and most consequential accomplishment of his first term was the transformation of the federal judiciary to the first constitutionalist majority in 90 years, including 3 appointments to the Supreme Court. They'll disappoint us from time to time, but overall, it's a very good Supreme Court, and it's getting better and better by the term. I think President Trump will build on that in his second term with even more bold, even more fearless judges. We have a much better Senate this time with 53, it looks like, Republican senators. We don't have so many squishes this time. And frankly, when I was the chief counsel for nominations the first time, we were able to break through so much Democratic obstruction that we set up an assembly line to make it much easier for President Trump to confirm his judicial and executive branch nominees this time. He's ready to go on day one.
The Supreme Court, are we looking at any, can you see on the horizon over the next 4 years any of these justices retiring? And let me ask a question that is uncomfortable, but it's a very valid question. Clarence Thomas, who I freaking love. Honestly, everyone who's decent on the right loves Clarence Thomas. Is it time for him to maybe retire?
Look, when these justices have lifetime tenure, they're going to go when they want to go. I've said this publicly to these judges on the federal bench. The stars are aligned right now. We have President Trump back in office. He's proven that he can appoint very good judges. We have a much stronger Republican Senate this time than we even did the first time. So if Republican judges are looking for like-minded successors, people who will carry the torch for them, younger, more bold, more fearless judges, now is the time to consider stepping down. But you're not going to tell a federal judge to leave. They're going to leave on their own time. I think if I were Justice Alito, I think I would get out quickly. I think he's accomplished what he wants to accomplish. But, maybe Justice Thomas has some more. He'll step down when it's appropriate for him, when it's appropriate for the country. He'll do the right thing, and I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I know. The man is the patriot of patriots. I'm certainly not worried about his heart or his motivation at all. I'm just thinking about the state of that court. All right, finally, pardons. These are things that usually come at the end of a presidential term, but you already mentioned people rotting in prison, January 6ers, Mimas. There are people who don't need to do another 4 years in prison until the end of Trump's term. That's politically, it could be political capital that is limited to start pardoning people. How does that look, Mike?
Like I said, I'm not going into the administration, but I would strongly advise President Trump's White House counsel and his attorney general to pardon these almost all of the January 6 defendants. The Supreme Court made very clear in the Fisher decision that they were politically persecuted. For the worst offenders, you commute their sentences. There's nothing that happened on January 6th that calls for a 22-year prison sentence. That is ridiculous, especially considering the Biden Kamala Justice Department gave amnesty to the much more deadly and destructive BLM and Antifa and Hamas rioters. And so I hope that's a high priority, and I'll certainly make that a high priority, advocating for their pardon and commutations at the Article 3 project.
Mike, I appreciate it. Thank you, brother. I'm hopeful. And the more I hear the more hopeful I get. We'll see how it goes. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.